Welcome to episode 7 of Sharing Life Lessons. I am your host Hamidah, and I want to bring you stories because stories inspire, stories teach, and stories heal. Before we start talking to our guest for today, I do want to talk a bit about the last episode, number 6. It was titled Self Awareness is Key in Order to Treat Mental Illness. I got some overwhelming comments from listeners. It struck a chord with so many people that they themselves suggested that I try to get this out to as many people as I can. And I just don't know how to do that because I have my own um, way of trying to get this to people, and I have maxed that. So, if there is anyone out there who can suggest how to get this out to middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, young adults, or parents of these students and young adults, please write to me at sharinglifelessons101@gmail.com or leave me a voice message at anchor.fm because Nikki's story of her journey through mental illness was not only powerful, but it was very hopeful. Over to today's episode. Oscar Handlin, an American historian and a professor of history at Harvard University, said, "Once I thought to write a history of the immigrants in America, then I discovered that the immigrants were American history. 1 in 8 residents is an immigrant in the US, while 1 in 9 residents, although a native born US citizen, has at least one immigrant parent. As workers, business owners, taxpayers, and neighbors, immigrants are an integral part of the US's diverse communities, and immigrants make extensive contributions to society." Today, we are going to talk to one such immigrant, and I am sure that many of us, like me, who are first generation immigrants, will relate to her story. Vineeta Khanna, also known as Vicky, is the founder of Orator Academy and has helped hundreds of young students and working professionals to become confident speakers. Vineeta, welcome to the show, and please tell us more about yourself.
Hi, I'm Vineeta Khanna, founder and coach at Orator Academy in New Jersey. Teaching people, young and old, skills of communication has become a passion with me because at the end of the day, how you communicate with people, how you connect with people, it really establishes you personally, professionally, socially, in every which way, any field of life. I got drawn to it basically because of my tenure with the radio. It was a great ride, 16 years of live radio where there were no retakes, no option. There were times I hated my delivery when I listened back to my recording, but at least I learned with each step, each show, and each feedback that I got from sometimes my friends and family and sometimes from the audiences. And it was just growth onwards and upwards. Then a friend suggested that I get into teaching communication to children because nobody else was doing it. And the observation was that children are unable to speak their mind, and they have a mind. They have something to say. They just don't know how to articulate it sometimes. And sometimes they don't know if it's the right thing to do, and sometimes they don't know if they have the courage within themselves to speak up for themselves. And that's why bullying is on the rise at all levels, in all ages. So my goal became that if I can strengthen, empower, embolden children who will tomorrow lead our world, they will essentially define our future, then I better get started.
I heard you say bullying is on the rise at all ages and at all levels. And according to me, these days, bullying is also emanating from the highest levels of our country. So, Venita, you are doing a great service to society by enabling our children to use their voices. So, please tell us your story.
So I've always been performing, whether I was in while I was in school and I was singing at the morning assembly, or when in college I was participating in the college festivals and singing there too. Even at my first job, I was singing. So I was always known to be a performer, and lucky enough to have a very willing and audience that always encouraged me. So it was great. When I moved countries, not knowing what to do with myself, quit a well paying job, trying to find my lost self, trying to rediscover who I ultimately was, starting life fresh with two babies in tow. Coming from a country where I had the luxury of house help, I had never driven a car myself, I had never cooked in the kitchen myself, I had done no household chores myself. All I did was get dressed and go out to work and for social gatherings. And here, suddenly, you're thrown in the midst of all. You have to take care of the house, the children, and still somehow look good, which wasn't happening. Looking good wasn't happening. So, a friend of mine suggested, who knew my background from my vocal performances of having been a student of classical music, and she suggested, why don't you try the radio? And I tried. I left a voicemail for a gentleman at the radio station, and I got a call back within a minute saying, we'd like to meet with you. I went with my two kids in tow, and I was told that start coming from tomorrow and start sitting with one of the anchors and start learning how they do it, hands on. Okay, so I started showing up while the kids went to school. I would go to the radio station and observe how the anchor was doing the show. 2 weeks later, I was told I was taking over that show. I got cold feet because watching from a chair on the side to sitting and handling everything yourself was a whole different ballgame. Nonetheless, I took upon the challenge and never looked back. Every single day of live radio, where even sometimes the audiences would call me and sometimes they would tell me how crazy I was to do the entire show in such a mixed language of English. And so they were laughing at my talents, which I had not discovered myself. I did not know that I had the capacity of doing a 1 hour show in English. And with over a decade of experience, a friend suggested that since I was such a people's person, I should try and work with people and teach them, help them discover their skills, their communication skills, ease them into easy and effective communication. And start with children because nobody was paying attention to children. Only when we became adults did we realize that, hey, I need these skills to ace the interview. I need these skills to talk in the conference room, to talk at the town hall meeting. Why didn't we start that when we were children? And that's when I started working with children.
For those who don't know what English means, Vineeta used to do this live radio show called Coffee Tea and Me with Vicky. I've listened to many of those shows, and she used to discuss very, very relevant topics with her guests. And it was a very successful show. So, English is a mix of Hindi and English because Vineeta was born and brought up in Delhi, India, and she migrated from India to the US. So, Vineeta, you said you came in with you came from a place where you absolutely had no responsibilities, household chores, you had maids, you had drivers. Why then would you move to the US? And once you decided to move to the US and you came to this whole new country with a whole family and two small kids, how did your journey of self discovery go?
So we were happily living in India. We were in one of the top brackets of income and very comfortable with life. But since I used to get free passages from the airline job that I was holding, we used to travel, my husband and I, and we had been to the United States. He has a lot of family here. And every time we visited, they would really press upon us to consider moving here. We had no intentions because both our parents were also back in India and Delhi. But both of us are somewhat very inquisitive and curious about life, and both of us are learners, and thankfully get along with each other as far as discovering and learning new things is concerned. So it worked out for both of us. When the pressure from the family became even more from his extended family, we took upon that suggestion and decided to move. We decided to move to this country, starting a new life. He would go to work, I would be running the house, not happy. There was a time when I felt I was losing my sense of self worth, my sense of identity. Who was I at that point? What was I worth? I was not even bringing any money home. Even to buy a lipstick, I had to ask my husband, hey, I need some cash. I need to go buy myself a new lipstick. That was a really stark change of lifestyle for me, where I was so used to making so much money and buying people things. And now I had to ask for, not that my husband would restrict, but just I was very mindful of the fact that it wasn't my money because I was so used to my money. So trying to raise my family, trying to be a good homemaker, trying to be a good life partner, we we kept moving along. And when my children started school, I decided to really get involved with the school system. I did take up a job in between, actually a full-time job. But what happened is our nanny arrangement did not work out, so I would leave the children in a daycare and come back and pick them up in the evening. That job was in New York City. We were living in New Jersey. I would leave them at 7 something in the morning and come back and pick them up at 7. So 12 hours they would be by themselves, and they looked rather sad by the time I picked them up. That didn't sit very well with both my husband and I. So we decided to try and make it work with one income, and I would take care of everything else. I did not know what that entailed. That was the toughest and the most demanding job that I have ever held, and continue to with all the other things that I'm pursuing at this time. I got very involved with the school systems. My idea was that I've moved to this new country. I look different, even though language is not a problem because I grew up speaking English, growing up in a big city like Delhi. But as I go to a school where we are a minority, I am going to completely open myself up to people to get to know me. I will not sit in my house. I will let them see me, touch, feel, know, like, hopefully. Working with children, working with parents, working with the school staff at that point was fabulous. People started to learn about our culture because there were times I would go dressed for multicultural, and for Diwali, I would go dressed in a sari because the vibrant colors, the rich fabric, the beautiful jewelry, you let people see who you are. And only then will they understand and appreciate who you are. So that until date, I have kept myself very engaged in the township. But at any age and at any stage in life, I see people struggling to speak their mind. Whether it was the school PTA, where people were working very hard behind the scenes but did not have courage to hold a chairperson position because they did not have the courage to speak at the PTA meeting.
Does this story sound familiar to anybody? Leaving your birth country, leaving your friends, leaving your family, migrating to this whole new, beautiful, faraway land, but then having to struggle for so many years to find your new identity, and then finally finding your new identity and loving it, and then living the American dream. Isn't this the classic happy immigrant story? It is Vinita's story. It is my story. And I'm sure it is a story of many, many, many other immigrants. And so all I have to say is let's just consider ourselves lucky for having or for being able to live the American dream. So, Vinita, what is your life lesson that you would like to share with anyone from all of these transitions that you've experienced?
So, a few things that I've learned in my life with my experiences, and would really advise to all, and actually I do to my students as well, is that when you see a door opening somewhere in front of you, ahead of you, and you see light coming through, don't be scared to push the door open and walk through it and see what's on the other side. And if when you walk to the other side, you see this light falling all over you, have the courage to embrace that light, enjoy that spotlight. It's happening for a reason. You've got to feel that glow on you, embrace it, enjoy it, live it. Don't question yourself all the time, and don't question the events all the time. If it's a good event, you're lucky. If it's a bad event, you learn something and come out stronger and more wise. So don't be hesitant in things that happen serendipitously in life. Have the courage to take on the unknown and have this have the sense of conviction. Everybody's worth something. I may not have what the other person next to me has, but there is something unique about me that I bring. There is no other Vineeta, and there is no other Hamida. We are one of a kind. If I try to be you, I will probably get inspired, but I'll never be truly you. That's you. And similarly, nobody can be me. So why shouldn't I rock my unique self? So we have to understand who we are and enjoy who we are. Live our own selves to its fullest without questioning all the time. And stop competing. Stop competing with people around you. Don't compete, but be inspired.
Well said, Vinita. To sum up, your life lesson that you're sharing with the listeners today is walk through every open door of opportunity, embrace the unknown, and more so, when you get across the door, embrace the spotlight that is shining on you. And I know why you chose that analogy. You not only figuratively embraced spotlights that has been shown on you, but actually embrace them on the very many stage shows that you've performed. So, Vinita, may I please request you to today not say your final words, but sing your final words to our listeners?
You know, I love music, so I'll leave you with these empowering words, a beautiful message, first in Hindi and then in English, the universal language of the world. जग घूमया थारे जैसा न कोई जग घूमया थारे जैसा न कोई जग घूमया थारे जैसा न कोई जग घूमया थारे जैसा न कोई.
The literal translation being, I searched the entire world out, but found nobody like you.
And I am unwritten, can't read my mind, I'm undefined. I'm just beginning, the pen's in my hand, ending unplanned. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you could not find, reaching for something in the distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions, feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Drench yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins, the rest is still unwritten.
Thank you for being on the show, Vinita, and for so beautifully sharing your life lessons with us. Listeners, if you want to get in touch with Vinita, you can do it on www.oratoracademy.com. Also, as the song says, every day is a new day. Open your book and write your story. I want to also inform everyone that I will not be releasing an episode next Wednesday. It is spring break and I will be vacationing with my family. So I will be bringing you the next episode of Sharing Life Lessons on Wednesday, March 18th. Till then, be happy and be well.